Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Dark States Baphormedes deck. The deck that asks, what if Bastion was a Demon Lord and had no support? But anyway, version 1 is of course everything through the first additional card pass through the booster set 7. And this deck is based around Baphormedes, one of the standalone promo boss units. And like I said, it is very similar to Bastion in the way that this deck is focused on grade 3 units and filling up your soul with grade 3 units in order to unlock Baphormedes' various abilities. Now, I will say straight up front, like I said, this deck doesn't really have any dedicated support since it is a standalone boss unit, so it does have to rely heavily on generic Dark States cards, specifically a lot of grade 3 ones. So I will say that this deck is more on the just for fun side. It can't necessarily keep up with some of the other decks in this game without, proper support for itself. But it still can be a pretty fun deck, especially when you can get your Vanguard up to some pretty insane numbers with a big guard restrict slapped on top. So anyway, as always, we'll be going through the deck, and then we'll show it off in one card fight for you to see it in action. So starting first with the ride deck, like I mentioned, there is no dedicated ride deck for Baphormedes, since he's a standalone promo boss. So we kind of scrapped together this ride deck here. It's actually the same ride deck I used in my Faverneel deck. But starting first with the grade 0 starter, we have Uncanny Burning. So when it's rolled upon, if you win second, draw a card. Standard D-Series starter, as always. Next for the grade 1, we have Flaming Pony. So it has activate ability when it's in your soul. That says you can bind this card to Soul Charge 2. So very simple ability, just letting you replace itself and its soul with 2 new cards, which could potentially get some grade 3s into your soul. Of course, it has a blind soul charge, so you don't know what you get. But we do have a few skills in this deck as well that just require 10 cards overall in your soul, not of any specific grade. So this can still help contribute towards that. So just a simple soul building ability. Next for the grade 2, we have Demonic Stone Dragon Jewel Neil. So he has an auto ability when he's on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. That says when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, you Soul Charge 1. So most of the time they are going to let your grade 2 Vanguard attack through, so you should get that Soul Charge off most of the time when he is your Vanguard. And we technically do have a way to get this out of our soul onto Rearguard, although usually we have better targets for it. But if he ends up on Rearguard, he's not vanilla either, because he still does have that pressure skill. So just another potential way to build up your soul. And then he's got a second auto ability that only activates when you ride Draw Jeweled on top of him, which obviously we're not going to be doing in this deck. So that second skill is not usable. So then lastly for the grade 3, we have Demonic Lord of Hades Blaze, Baphormedes. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can put 2 grade 3 Rearguards into your soul to draw a card, and this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of that battle for every 3 grade 3 cards in your soul. So this skill is a -1 since it sucks in 2 of your Rearguards and only lets you draw 1 to replace it. But it does let you power up your Vanguard with a snowballing power gain ability, since you'll be getting more and more grade 3s into your soul as the game goes on. So you'll gain more and more power every time you use this ability. And it also gets the grade 3s into your soul to help set up for his second continuous ability. That says this unit gets all of the following according to the number of grade 3 cards in your soul. If you have 3 or more, all of your grade 3 units get shield plus 5,000 and boost. And if you have 6 or more, when your opponent would call cards from hand to Guardian Circle for the battle this unit attacked, they must call 3 or more at the same time. So his first ability gets you 2 grade 3s into your soul, so you just need to find a way to get 1 more into your soul to get the first part of this ability online, turning all of your grade 3 units into 5k shields as well as 13k boosters, which we have several abilities in this deck focused on soul charging or getting cards into your soul, so getting that third grade 3 in there shouldn't be too hard. You should be able to pull that off pretty easily by turn 3 in most cases. And then if you can build up 6 or more into your soul, he does get a pretty powerful guard restrict, forcing your opponent to call 3 or more cards at the same time when they would guard his attack, which with his first skill giving him a lot of extra power, he can hit pretty big numbers. So if they do want to perfect guard it, they're going to have to waste 2 cards from their hand along with it in order to just play that perfect guard. Now, getting 6 grade 3s into your soul is possible by turn 3, although a lot of the times it is going to end up being a turn 4 skill at the soonest, which isn't really a huge deal because they usually let your Vanguard attack through on turn 3 anyway. But once you get that online, having that very powerful guard restrict can be very, very dangerous. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we of course have our 3 additional copies of Baphormedes. Unfortunately, there is no, double frame rare or SP or whatever fancy version for him. So just the standard rarity. Next up, we have 4 copies of Heat Haze Acrobat Miroslava. So she has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand during your main phase, you can counterblast 1 to choose a card with grade equal to or less than your Vanguard from your soul, put it into your hand if you chose a card with the same card name as your Vanguard, and call it to rearguard circle if you did not. And if you put a card into your hand, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this is a very valuable card for the deck. It is a counterblast 1 and effectively a soul blast 1 for a +1, letting you either get a unit out of your soul onto your board to help fill up your field, or getting a Persona Ride copy back into your hand to set up for next turn while also powering up herself. So this card can be very vital to the deck, especially since you're going to be sucking in so many of your rear guards into your soul with Baphormedes skill. Being able to fetch some of those back out of your soul onto your field can definitely be very helpful. So next up, we got 4 copies of Execution Dragon Vorpal Scythe Dragon. So he has an activate ability that says once per turn, you can Soul Blast 2 to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So that is a control option. I don't use this skill a ton. If you have the extra soul, you can go for it. But like I said, besides just getting grade 3s into your soul for Baphormedes skill, you also want to have a total of 10 or more soul for a few of our abilities in this deck. So a lot of the times I would just rather not use up those resources and keep my soul count high. But if you have the soul to spare, that can be a nice control option to pick apart your opponent's board. And then he also has his auto ability that says when this unit's attack hits, you may soul charge 2. So this is the main ability this card is being used for. If he hits anything, either a Vanguard or a rearguard, you can get a extra soul charge 2, help him build up that soul to potentially hit 10 to turn those other skills on. Can be very, very helpful in this deck. Also potentially getting you more grade 3s in there to power up Baphormedes further as well. So next we have 4 copies of Time Jarrett Dragon. So his auto ability says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you can put a card from your hand into your soul and draw a card. So just a simple hand filter ability, although it is very useful since you can put a grade 3 from your hand into your soul, again to help Baphormedes. It does help build up that soul by 1, while also replacing itself so it doesn't cost you any card advantage. Now this card does end up being a vanilla after you use its skill, but of course you can just suck it into your soul with Baphormedes, and if you use Miroslava's skill to call it back out of your soul, you can potentially reuse its on-call ability as well, since it doesn't have to specifically be placed from hand or anything. So very helpful card for this deck. So next we have 2 copies of Unbreakable Ice Pillar Jebina. So her auto ability says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if your soul has 10 or more cards, you can counterblast one and soul blast one, and until end of that battle, when your opponent would call cards from hand to Guardian Circle, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So another guard restrict ability, not quite as powerful as Baphormedes, only requiring them to use 2 cards at the same time instead of 3. But if you have both of those online in the same turn, it can force your opponent to potentially waste a lot of cards from their hand in order to block all of your attacks. She is a counter blast cost and a soul blast cost, so a little bit steep, but if you have the resources, it can make your offense that much more potent. So then lastly for the grade 3s, we do have 2 copies of Desire Devil Hystera. So his auto ability says when this unit attacks, this unit gets power plus 2,000 until end of turn for each of your stand rear guards, and if your damage zone has 5 or more cards, it gets power plus 5,000 instead of plus 2,000. So this card is just there to be a beat stick. If you attack with it first and you have a full field, then you should have 3 more standing rear guards at least. So that would give him an extra 6 or 15k, depending on what your damage count is at the time. So he makes for a good first attacker. You can attack with him boosted by whoever. He should hit pretty big numbers, and then you can suck him and the grade 3 that boosted him into your soul for a Baphormedes skill in order to get his power up and guard restrict potentially as well. So just a good beat stick for the deck. So that's all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. The only grade 2 we're running in the main deck actually is 3 copies of Selfish Engraver. So she has 2 auto abilities. First of which says when this unit's attack hits, you soul charge 1. So just another good pressure ability, another way to build up that soul. Again, she can hit anything, so if you want to attack into a rear guard, which they'll be less likely to guard, to potentially build that resource, that is an option for this card as well. And then she has her second auto ability that says at the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your soul has 10 or more cards, you can put this unit into your soul and countercharge 1. So she's also the countercharge engine for this deck. She is a minus since she puts herself into soul, but getting that countercharge in order to be able to use some of your other abilities again, like Miroslava or Bubetsu, who we'll be going through here in a second, can definitely be very helpful for the deck. And she at least turns herself into a resource in the process. So, very helpful card. So that is all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we do have 4 copies of Desire Devil Bubetsu. So his auto ability says once per turn, when your other rear guard is put into your soul by your Vanguard's ability during your turn, you can counterblast 1 to choose a card from your hand, call it to an open rear guard circle, and if your soul has 10 or more cards, draw a card. So this is definitely one of the most useful rear guards in the deck. I usually like putting him behind my Vanguard, since Baphormedes' skill will trigger his ability by sucking in 2 of your rear guards. You can counterblast 1 to call a new rear guard from your hand to your front row, giving you potentially a 4th attack that turn. And if you do have the 10 cards built up into your soul, you get a draw as well. So that will also turn Baphormedes' skill from a -1 into a +/-0 to help mitigate that loss of card advantage, which maintaining card advantage is definitely one of the hardest things that this deck struggles with. So this card can help contribute to that as long as you can get that 10 soul build up. So you want to use all your soul charge abilities to try to build up that soul count as fast as possible, and then have Bubetsu to both increase your offense and your draw power. So definitely a card you want to run at 4 of in the deck. So the only other grade 1s we're running are our Sentinels. So first off, we do have 3 copies of Repelled Malice Dragon, just your standard perfect guard, as well as 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we do just have our trigger lineup, which is 7 crits, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crits, we have 3 copies of Diabolos Girls My My, just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 4 copies of Stem Deviate Dragon. So crit with a skill, at the end of the battle it boosted, you can put it into your soul to choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 2000 until end of turn. The skill crit isn't really necessary for this deck, I'm just running it just because. I don't think I've ever used it in this deck once. So if you'd rather run another vanilla just for the artwork or whatever, you can feel free to do so. So next for the draws, we have 4 copies of Raoul's Wildmaster Riley. So draw with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's greater or greater, it gets shield plus 5000. So your 10k shield draw trigger, of course. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Diabolos Girls Ariana. So just the vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can. So then lastly, our over trigger is Hades' Dragon Deity of Resentment, Galmage held. So his additional effect says you get, during your turn, all of your Vanguards get power plus 10,000, critical plus 1 until end of this fight. So grants a skill to the player, giving you basically a permanent crit trigger to your Vanguard, which can be very dangerous with Baphormedes' Guard Restrict stacked on top of that, and of course his colossal power gain later and later in the game. So very, very good card. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And let's see, we'll fight Rika. And we will be going second. Alright, so let's drop Hystera, I guess. Alright. Our starter skill lets us draw. So then we'll just attack. And we get a crit trigger right off the bat.
Check the damage. Check the damage. Ore no turn. Draw. Light. Skill 発動. Vanguard.
And I think I'm actually going to guard that.
Check the drive. Critical trigger.
Oh, it's a good thing I did, because I got a crit trigger.
Power plus.
But it's still not enough to hit. So we'll drop that crit to right Jewel Neal. And then we can just attack again. Oh, we got another crit trigger. Alright. So that'll be another 2 damage. And this attack hit, so Jewel Neal will let us soul charge as well. He gets a draw trigger. And we soul charge another crit.
Vanguard にアタック
And I think I'm gonna guard that one too, actually. That's 2 to pass.
チェックザドライチェックザドライ
And he got no triggers.
スキル発動スキル発動
We will Revol Dress into Revol Form Zest. He gains 15k. So we'll let that one through.
敗北という結果を抱いて落ちていけ
ダメージチェック。よし、クリティカルトリガー。
And we got another crit. Wow.
クリティカルプラス。
I'm not gonna have any crits left in my deck.
ターンエンドユースベルクのス
And that did shut down his rear guard attack.
ペリオルライ
私のターン、ドロー。
Alright then. So let's discard. And we'll drop Engraver, I guess.
ライド。
To ride Baphormedes. And then we'll go ahead and use Flaming Pony's skill
スキル発動。バイン
to
ド。
bind itself and Soul Charge too. So then we'll call Bubetsu
コール。
behind the Vanguard. And we will call Time Jarrett Dragon over
コー
here
ル。
and use his skill to shove Vorpal Scythe
スキル
into
発
Soul
動。
and draw. And then we can call Miroslava
コール。
and use her skill
スキル発動。
to call Vorpal Scythe right back out.
スペリオルコール。
So we got 1 grade 3 in our soul right now. So we will go ahead and attack with Miroslava first.
ヴァンガードにアタック。
ノーガード負けるわけにはチェックザダメージ
And we got him to 5 already. But then we'll attack with
ヴァンガードに
Baphormedes
アタック。
and use his skill to put 2 of our grade 3 rear guards into soul,
スキル発動。
which will give him 10k and let us draw and give us 3 grade 3s in our soul to get the first part of Baphormedes' continuous skill online.
ドライブチェック。
And we didn't have any face-up counterblast to use Bubetsu, unfortunately. But we didn't have anything to good call from our hand anyway. So we will have Vorpal Scythe just pick off his rear guard, actually.
アタック。
ノーガー
And since his attack hit, we'll get the Soul Charge too.
ターンエンド。
ドスタンドアンドドローコール
And he did not get his Persona Ride. And he has no field either. So he'll get the Revol Dress, so he'll get 2 attacks this turn. So I'm gonna let this one through.
チェックザドライクリティカルトリ
Oh, and he gets a crit
ガ
trigger.
ークリティカルプラスパワープラスチェックザドライクリティカルトリ
Oh, and another crit on top of that. Wow.
パワープラ
So
ス
that's gonna put us straight to 4.
衝撃の雨を受けろ
ダメージチェック。よし、クリティカルトリガ
And we get a crit.
ー。
Yet again.
プラス。
How many crits do I even have left? There can't be many.
ダメージチェック。ドロートリガー。
We got a draw trigger too. Nice.
パワープラス。ダメージチェック。
スキル発動スキル発動
And he Revol dresses into Gust,
パワープラス
which will get 10k and a drive check.
ガードにアタック
So let's see. We just need 5 to block that, so we'll use Bubetsu.
ガード
チェックザドライ ターンエンドユースベルクのスキル発動スペリオルライ
スタンドドロー
Alright, so let's Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド
And let's see, we have 5 grade 3s in our soul right now. So I am going to call Miroslava
コール
and use her skill
スキル発動
to counter blast. He has 9 cards in his hand, so I think I am going to put Baphormedes into our hand and give her an extra 5k. So then, let's see. We will go ahead and call another Vorpal Scythe over here. And I think that is all for right now. So we will attack with our left Vorpal Scythe, boosted by Miroslava.
ヴァンガードにアタック
And he guards.
ガード
So then we'll attack with
ヴァン
Baphormedes.
ガードにアタック
And his skill once again lets us put 2 rear guards into our soul,
スキル発動パワープラス
which gives us 6 grade 3s in the soul, so he gains 20k, and his guard restrict. And Bubetsu's skill lets us counter
スキル
blast
発動
and superior call 1 from our hand. And we will get the draw as well, since we have over 10 cards in our soul. So I think I'm gonna have to call Miroslava, even though we won't get to use her skill because it's the battle phase. But we'll call her over here.
スペリオルコール
And he perfect guarded, but he had to waste 2 cards from his hand on top of the discard.
完全ガード
ドライブチェックドライブチェックドロートリガー
But we get a draw trigger. So we will give that power to Vorpal
パワ
Scythe.
ープラス
Oh, we drew her over. Which, as you notice, Baphormedes doesn't get his full screen cut in when he uses his skill. So I had to come up with something different for my thumbnail for this video. But we will go ahead and attack with Vorpal
ヴ
Scythe.
ァンガードにアタック
And he perfect guards.
スキル発動完全ガード
But he's only got 1 card left in his hand, and I still have 1 more attack. So we'll attack with
ヴァン
Miroslava.
ガードにアタック
Oh, and he had another perfect guard.
スキル発動完全
Well, he survived it, but he's got no hand and no field.
ターンエンド
俺のターンドロ
So
ー
he's not in good shape.
ヴァンガードにアタック
So let's see, I am going to go ahead and block that just in case. So we might as well use this perfect guard.
スキル発動
And we'll discard that draw.
完全ガード
チェックザドライブクリティカルトリガー
He got a crit, so it's a good thing we blocked that.
パワープラスチェックザドライ
And will he get his Revol dress?
スキル発動ターンエンド
Oh, he does
ラ
not.
ンドドロー
So we should get him here because we know what's in his hand. So we will Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド
So let's see, we will go ahead and move Miroslava back and call Jabina,
コール
as well as another Vorpal Scythe back here. And then we will go ahead and attack with Jabina first.
ヴァンガードにアタック
And we can use her skill to counter blast and soul blast.
スキル発動
And she'll gain guard restrict. And he does guard it. But we know the only thing left in his hand is one grade 3, so he can't block anything else. So we're gonna attack with
ヴァン
Baphormedes
ガードにアタック
and use his skill to shove our 2 grade 3s into soul,
発動パワープラス
giving him a whopping 30k power and guard restrict.
ドライブチェックよしドロートリガー
And we get a draw trigger on top of all of that. So we will go ahead and give that power to Vorpal Scythe.
パワープラス
But this should get him here.
負けるわけにはチェックザダメージヒールトリ
Oh, I got a Miracle Eel. Come on.
パワープラス
Well, he's hanging on for dear life. But we got one more attack. So Vorpal boosting Vorpal
ヴァンガードにアタ
will
ック
attack for 46,000.
ノーガード負けるわけにはチェックザダメージ
And we finally got him with that. Wow.
私の勝ちねやった
Well, he went down fighting, but we finally got him. So there you go. That was my Baphormedes deck. It is a pretty fun deck, although it isn't the strongest in the world. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up, I will be starting a series of lyrical deck profiles, actually, with Hazoret. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.